And we're back for another hour or so. You know, we covered a lot of stuff in that first hour. I mean, I wanted to do that just to go through different things, not stay in a particular area, to show the craziness, the absolute craziness that's going on in this country. I mean, I would love to spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about abortion. You know what? We got Higgins' border wall. Let's play that to start out the second hour. This is a great video done by Clay Higgins. Really puts a spin on the border.
I'm Congressman Clay Higgins. I serve on the United States House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee. Let's talk for a moment, if we may, about our national sovereignty as it relates to border security, specifically our border with Mexico. It's important to understand that although for generations we had a soft and porous border with Mexico that worked just fine. I was born in 1961. I'm the seventh of 8 children. My parents were parents like yours that during the summertime would load the kids in the wagon and drive back and forth across the border at will. This worked fine for generations. But this was before criminal cartels controlled 100% of the Mexican side of our southern border. This is a manifestation that has crippled law enforcement's effort to control our southern border. They traffic 3 things: humans, primarily for sex trafficking, drugs, and weapons. Untold billions of American dollars in cash get shipped south, and crime gets shipped north. I have scouted the entire southern border, 1,954 miles, from Southern California to Southern Texas. Talk to the boots on the ground, what exactly is needed. There exists about 700 miles of fencing, physical barriers. This has been approved twice by Congress in the past, by Democrat-controlled Congresses. Primary fencing went up. Some years later, secondary fencing went up in the effort to control those areas. And what we need now is about 900 miles of improved physical barrier. The 700 miles is already there, needs to be enhanced and improved, and an additional couple of 100 miles or so. This is the information from the boots on the ground. I've spoken to these guys. The entire border, by airplane, by helicopter, by boat, by four-wheel drive vehicle, by horseback, and on foot. I've scouted the entire border. What is the role of a physical barrier? It's not designed to be an impenetrable wall or fencing. The mission of Border Patrol is to detect an illegal crossing. This is where technology comes in. We have technology to look past the border, you understand? And these guys know what to look for. Then to delay or deter that crossing. This is where a physical barrier comes in. This is where enhanced physical barrier, 900 miles of it, which is what we need. This is the purpose of that physical barrier. Not to stop an illegal crossing that's already been detected by technology, but to delay it and deter it. And may I say that anyone that thinks that it's easy to defeat a 30-foot wall with a 40-foot ladder has never climbed a 30-foot wall with a 40-foot ladder. So once an illegal crossing has been detected with technology and then delayed or deterred with a physical barrier, collectively referred to as the wall, then the mission of Border Security is to respond to that illegal crossing and investigate and make arrests as appropriate. No one is talking about building a Great Wall of China across 1,954 miles of our southern border. No one intends to put a 30-foot wall on top of a 200-foot cliff. God already put a 200-foot wall there. The border security agents and law enforcement professionals that are in charge of maintaining the sovereignty of our nation on our southern border know exactly what they need, and that's precisely what we intend to give them. So I ask my fellow Americans to reflect upon these things. The Army has a saying. I'm a veteran. We don't hate what's in front of us. We love what's behind us. We love America and our sovereignty. America has one of the most generous and compassionate immigration systems in the world. But we must maintain our sovereignty and protect ourselves from criminal influence. America needs enhanced physical barrier along 900 miles of our southern border. We must maintain the security and safety of the citizenry that we serve, and that means we're standing for wall funding.
Checking on it right now. Hang on. We have no sound.
Now you got it.
Yeah, now we got it. Thank you for calling in.
Okay. You're welcome. Make it back.
Hello? Joyce just called, but it was on the other line. Call back. We had one missed call, but go ahead and call back, Ms. Schaefer. She was probably calling to tell us no sound. But the Green New Deal, you know, Bill Clinton's Congress goals with Moynihan compared to Soviet Union's penchant for delusional grain quotas illustrated while the senator called leakage of reality from American life. All of these different things through the year lead to this stupidity by the Democrats. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, averse to government by arrested development teenagers, dismissed the Green New Deal as a suggestion See, they got so much feedback on this. Pelosi pulled it. First, she was for it. Its enthusiasts, buffeted by gales of derision, responded with gusts of dissembling as implausible as the ground. Their fact sheet was a mere draft or a dirty trick doctored or something. Do you know how actual the New Deal fared? The GND had no practical importance but much significance. First, it underscores the rise of politics and gestures that are as flamboyant as they are empty. Donald Trump has his wall, the left has its Green New the GND. Second, it replies his progressive desire to militarize everything but the military. Remember, his third, the GND reveals progressive embrace of Trump's political style, a stew of frivolity and mendacity. Remember, his campaign boasts that he would erase the national debt, not just the budget deficit, the then 19 trillion debt in 8 years, meaning by more than $2 trillion a year. Did he really say that in his? I don't think he said he'd erase the debt. He's smarter than that. This was ludicrous, but not more so than the GND, which is not only an example of Trumpification of the left. The Wall Street Journal, James Freeman notes that last year Elizabeth Warren said this on NBC. My mother and daddy were born and raised in Oklahoma. My daddy first saw my mother when they were both teenagers. He fell in love with this tall, quiet girl who played the piano head over heels. But his family was bitterly opposed to their relationship because she was part, you ready? Oh, I love it. Part Native American. They eventually eloped. People, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up. Bitterly because of the mother's Native American part, which could not have been much more than Warren's still hypothetical minuscule part. As Freeman writes, if Native American ancestry was so distant on her mother's side that the center has never been able to name any Native relatives, and even now her own DNA expert cannot rule out the possibility that she has no such relatives at all. What a tangled web we weave. It's now reasonable to conclude that Warren's made birther claims for self-serving reasons that remain opaque, claims that are no more factual or unimportant. Further fabrications Trump concocted for the use against Obama. You can't make this stuff up. What's actually in the Green New Deal for the Democrats? One is proposing to eliminate all planes, cars, cows, oil, gas, and the military. For reader service, we're going to summarize what actually a Green New Deal from the Democrats and how it ended up with all this confusion. The facts. The Green New Deal is a manifesto calling for sweeping changes to American society. Key goals include cutting greenhouse gas emissions to net zero over 10 years and guaranteeing jobs for all. I can't get over the idiocracy of gas emissions to net zero. How do you put this in a perspective without, I don't even know how to say it, without greenhouse gas emissions, you can't grow anything. The grass don't grow, the vegetables don't grow, the corn don't grow, the sugar cane don't grow.
Well, there's still volcanoes and there's cows.
Yeah, oh yeah, we would have the cows. No, we would have to develop a device for the cows.
Well, you got bison.
Yeah. are gonna eliminate the cows. So they wanna have all vegan people. Is that right? They wanna have all vegan people. Phew. I mean, did they actually check any of this stuff scientifically? I mean, I'm no environmental engineer, but I have learned enough that you can't grow anything without greenhouse gas emissions to net zero. The plan has prominent Democratic backers, including Senators Cory Booker, you're gone, Kirsten Gillibrand, you're gone, Kamala Harris, you're gone, and Glo Booker of Minnesota and Elizabeth Warren, you're gone. I mean, anybody that would back this plan is gone. Climate change is a critical issue. Here we go again. Some experts say the Green New Deal is overambitious and unworkable. I'm afraid I just cannot see how we could possibly go to zero carbon in 10-year frame. In resolution, Congress calls for a 10-year national mobilization that would include guaranteeing a job with family-sustaining wages, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security to all the people of the United States. Who's paying for this? Oh, us. Providing all people in the United States with high-quality health care, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, access to clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and nature. Wow, that's a pipe dream. Providing resources, training, and high-quality education, including higher education, to all the people of the United States. Building or upgrading energy-sufficient, distributed, and smart power grids, and working to ensure affordable access to electricity. And it just goes on and on and on. And the resolution eliminates all planes, cars, cows, oil, gas, and the military. I don't think these people really understand how much. You see this phone? There's petroleum products in this phone, right? Used to build this phone. Petroleum products are in everything. And we're going to eliminate them? So what are we going to come up with? Can't make this stuff up, people. Frequently asked questions include statements that went beyond terms of resolution, and they soon became fodder for attacks by Fox News commentators and Republicans. Another point, the frequently asked question called for building high-speed rail at a scale where air travel stops becoming necessary. So how do we get to Hawaii? Think Canada's going to let us build a high-speed rail to go to Alaska? "100% clean and renewable, and not just 100% renewable." Are you saying we won't transition off of fossil fuels? We aren't sure that we'll be able to get rid of, I'm going to say it, of farting cows and airplanes that fast. I'm sorry, people. Here's another one, the 10 most insane requirements, which we basically went through in that article. I've been talking about this for weeks, this HR 1, and I haven't kept track. But if this bill passes, We have just been stripped of our state sovereignty, period. H.R. 71, Democrats act to strip state powers over elections. The bill is a 571-page dreamscape of wild wishes and federal mandates on states. The Constitution decentralizes power over American elections and puts the states in charge. H.R. 1 would undo that. In other words, all the power would be in Washington, D.C. You know they want to eliminate the Electoral College. And when you look at that, there are 4 areas that the population would control what the elections were. Decentralization promotes individual liberty. When power over election is centralized, it is easier for the power to be used. When power over elections is decentralized, no single malevolent actor can exert improper control over the process. That is precisely why the Democrats are so eager for Washington, D.C. to have more power over our elections. H.R. 1 has, and this is the scary part, has 218 co-sponsors. It forces states to implement mandatory voter registration. If someone is on a government list, such as receiving welfare benefits or rental subsidies, then they would automatically be registered to vote. Few states have enacted this system because Americans still view civic participation as a voluntary choice. H.R. 1 mandates that states allow all felons to vote. H.R. 1 would force states to have extended periods of early voting and mandates that early voting sites be near bus or subway routes. While purportedly designed to increase participation, early voting has been shown to have no effect on the turnout. H.R. 1 also undermines the First Amendment by exerting government control over political speech. In other words, we couldn't sit here and talk about whatever. And undoing the Supreme Court's Citizen United decision. H.R. 1 would undo the ruling that and prohibit states from effectively cleaning voter rolls. Wow. H.R. 1 mandates same-day voter registration. H.R. 1 limits the ability of states to cooperate to see who is registered in multiple states at the same time. H.R. 1 would criminalize protected political speech by making it a crime to discourage someone from voting or to use deceptive practices in politics. It would also bar states from disallowing vote by mail. Wow. The biggest prize in H.R. 1 is to restore Justice Department approval powers over state election law changes. In other words, what we're talking about here is basically a dictatorship. You need to call and make sure this bill never, ever gets. Huh? Oh, I think so. I don't even think McConnell will bring it to the floor. House will advance our R1 government. Pelosi's looking at bringing that up now. There's something. Okay. I'm going to go into this. I'm kind of, actually, no. See, this is what happened at home. I had all this stuff on my desk. Which thing do you read now? We just saw the film by Higgins a little bit ago on the border. So I'm going to go through some of that stuff again. Some of it's redundant. Some of it you got to hear. But this is articles by Cliff Kincaid, The Border Wars Plot to Destabilize and Transform America. It's a very good article. I highlighted some things in here. The Center for Secure Free Society held a news conference the other day about the roles of Russia, China, Venezuela, and other countries in flooding the U.S. with illegal aliens. Mario Duarte, Secretary of Strategic Intelligence for the Republic of Guatemala, spoke at the event, calling the caravans and their impact on the U.S. border security the weaponization of refugees. The term weaponization was also used by NATO's top commander in Europe, Philip Breedlove, to describe what the Russians and Syrians were doing in the Middle East. And we were talking about this earlier. I like watching this show. And if you want to find out the reality of the border, you need to watch this show. Border Wars on the National Geographic Channel captures the determined efforts of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, ICE, DEA, and the U.S. Coast Guard and local law enforcement to keep our nation safe. They fight terrorism, apprehend drug smugglers, the process of intercepting people entering the United States illegally is another mission they have. These illegal aliens have become weapon of war, just like in the Middle East. A border wall would be another line of defense. Recently, a second caravan arrived up on the Mexican border. You know what Mexico did? They took and divided these people up and spread them all along the border. Thank you, Mexico. And at this point, I want to say, last week I read a thing about Nancy Pelosi meeting with Nieto, the president of Mexico, who was funded by $100 million by El Chapo. I think that there should be an investigation into Nancy Pelosi and her connection with the cartel and the president of Mexico. Because it's awful funny now that Schumer and all these people that were for the border are now against the border wall. And only one thing in all my years of doing this stuff can change that mind, and that's money. And that needs to be done. We need to investigate these people. We need an attorney general that got some gonads and goes after these people and start arresting them. We got so much stuff on Obama, Hillary, all these others, the previous AGs in the Obama thing, the crime syndicate at the FBI. Oh, did I say that? Uh-oh, Jim's in trouble. Be a SUV at the house tomorrow. Not the first to say that. We got so much stuff going on. We literally need to just clean house in some of these. The IRS, one of the biggest, most corrupt deals we have in the United States. So back to this, participants in the SFS news conference said evidence showed that Venezuela, propped up by Russian and Cuban forces and Chinese loans, has been, are you ready? Financing the caravans as part of a plan to destabilize the United States. Now, all you people that doubt Trump and what he says about the need to put the wall or barriers or whatever you want to call them up on the border because of this stuff. You don't love America. The security experts also said Russia practices strategic deception. That is, they focus our attention on one thing when they are busy causing trouble somewhere else. Indeed, the weaponization of refugees of Latin America can be seen as an explanation of Russiagate. The idea that Trump was a Russian agent, it was a masterstroke by the Russians. This information has led to almost 2 years' worth of investigations by special counsel and Congress into Trump's political, personal, and business dealings. As all of this was unfolding, the Russians were up to no good south of the border, as thousands of illegal aliens have flooded our country, some marching in caravans. It has been Trump, the alleged Russian agent, who has pushed back against the Russian plan. The Russian Gate investigations, including the one by Special Counsel Mueller, have the earmarks of Russian disinformation operation carried forward by the Democratic Party to divert attention of our nation from what really matters: Russians meddling in Latin America. One can now see the impact of investigations wasn't to produce a case against Trump, but to divert attention from the real Russian plot to flood the U.S. with refugees after a period of destabilization south of the border. Remember that the former President Barack Hussein Obama had been indifferent or even sympathetic to plans socialist Hugo Chavez of Venezuela to form an anti-American bloc in Latin America. Obama even recognized communist Cuba, signaling acceptance of socialism by the United States. This statement, next statement, is amazing. Obama is the Russian mole. If any U.S. president has been a Russian agent, it was Obama. Is this guy still alive? Raised and mentored by the Communist Party, member Frank Marshall Davis, and as president facilitated Russian and communist operations through Latin America by treating Venezuela, Cuba, and Brazil as worthy experts in socialism. It's interesting to note that Marxist former president of Brazil, Lula, and Rousseff were allies of Obama, but have since been impeached or overthrown or thrown in prison. Anti-communist alliances of nations, including the U.S., Colombia, and now Brazil under Jair Bolsonaro, is making a mark. But in Venezuela itself, as a result of Obama, the only real alternative to Maduro, the successor to Chavez, is another socialist, Juan Guaido. Lessons have to be clearly understood, and the implications, what we know, have to be stated in stark terms. One of the key players in Russiagate was Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, who, interesting enough, has voted for the Communist Party when it was funded by Moscow. Trump, who has now gotten a deal for more than $1 billion for the border wall, after originally calling for $25 billion, has been targeted by American enemies using our own media against him. The Democrats, of course, had another motive for going along with the Russiagate ploy. Their brown is the new white political strategy. By doing so, they diminish the importance and power of conservative voters. In the context, largely because of the impact of illegal immigration, California has become a socialist one-party state within the United States. It's a model for what they intend to do to America as a whole. People, I know this is a lot of stuff, but you got to know that. Of course, some Republicans and big Republican donors, such as the Koch brothers, favor more immigrants as well. The Koch brothers are American for Prosperity. They fund them as a means by which big business obtains cheap labor, and with the failure by leaders of the congressional Republicans and Democrats to deliver funds to complete border wall in the latest deal, tens of millions of more people will be coming. In fact, Gallup reports that 42 million Latin Americans are ready to move to the U.S. permanently. The Russians must be laughing themselves silly. I want to know if this guy's still alive. This here talks about the wall funding. One of the biggest discussions right now, does Trump have the authority to call on a national security? I was hoping I printed that out to show you how many. President can declare national security. There's so much stuff under this particular subject, and I had it. Right now, there are actually 31 national emergencies. And interestingly, the president does have the power to do this. They're going to challenge him in the courts. I don't get it. But I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Nancy Pelosi and Schumer need to be investigated, big time, for treason. Why? Because when you look at videos back to 2006, 2009, 2012, even Obama back in 2005 or 6 said we had too many illegals coming into this country. And then they get in position of power, and all of a sudden they don't want that wall built because they're being controlled by Mexico, by the cartel. Do I have valid proof of that? Not really. But you think about it. You see, they need those people to come in here because we Americans are not stupid, and we're not going to vote for them, and they know it. I just want you, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever, sit down and take a look at the records of all these people that want to run. And what I want you to look at is, what do they stand for? One of the biggest things that you need to look at is the fact that these people want to do away with private insurance. $182 million people. If they get elected and it gets through, we'll lose your private insurance. And you're going, Jim, that can't happen. Don't say that word can't. Look at California. I mean, people are running to get out of there. Go ahead, caller.
I don't have any problem with as many illegals that want to come into this country. I think they ought to let them all in on one condition. They have to live either in California, New York, or New Jersey.
No.
The 3 states. They can't live anywhere else. And let me ask you another question. Do you know about how long it takes to build 1 mile of the wall? I don't know. I just you know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, because I'm going to check on that, because so far, with the Trump has $600 million that's been approved before, I think maybe a year ago or something, and he's got 1.375. The bottom line, that's $2 billion, okay? With $2 billion, you can build about 70 miles of wall, okay? Now, I don't know how long it's going to take to build 70 miles of wall, but if I had to guess, I'd say Trump would be out of office by the time they finish 70 miles of wall, even if he get reelected. So the bottom line is, he really does need one more dollar while he's in office to build some wall. But I'm gonna do some checking. I want to find, because like I said, roughly you can build 70 miles of wall, about. with $2 billion. And something else, that Smollett, whatever you call that fella, he got indicted a couple hours ago, which I knew that was coming.
Yeah, we
And I
did.
told
We
my-
got a call on
yeah.
that.
Okay. And Jim, I told my wife last week, on the second day after he made, these accusations or whatever, I told her, I said, this is all a bunch of baloney. She said, what makes you say that? One thing he said, I laughed. I said, that's why I know it's a lie. When they said, this is Trump country. Now, MAGA country, whatever. Now, you don't have 10 people in Chicago, Illinois that voted for Donald Trump. So don't give it that baloney. That's one thing I knew he was lying about. And did you see when that Coast Guard guy got arrested today?
No.
Yeah, he got arrested. He had all kind of weapons and ammo, and he had a hit list. Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, I saw the headlines, but I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah, he had a hit list with Pelosi, Gillibrand, Cortez,
Cool.
Chuck Schumer, plus Sandy.
Not smart.
No, but they showed he had a list of that, and I'm not gonna say what I was thinking on the air, but you can probably read my
don't.
mind. I won't say. You can read my mind. Huh? Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for the call. You see, and that guy got indicted. I'm glad to hear that. We need to have that stuff. The question is, does Trump have the power to create a national emergency? Pelosi comes back and says, if we get a Democratic president, we're going to have a national emergency for guns. There's a big difference. And I hate to tell, that shows you the lack of intelligence and smarts. The guns is a constitutional amendment that would have to take place. And what is the national emergency with guns? I want to see her go to Bill Platt and tell them people they got to give up their guns. I don't even want to know. Trump, there is there's so much big money involved here. That is the problem. Those cartels and stuff are making billions of dollars every year in drug money, trafficking, sex trafficking, children, pedophiles, you name it. And we need to put a stop to it. If we don't build that wall, Trump's in for a big battle. The one thing they forget is they can do all they want in the courts. They can do all they want and say what they want. But you know what? There's a 4-letter word. It's called veto. And then they need, on a veto, to overcome a veto, do they need 2/3, I think it is? They need a 2/3 vote, I believe, to override that. They'll never get that. I would be shocked. I have 2 articles here. Not going to read through them. National emergency is real. Illegal immigration is destroying families. I have some really good friends outside of family in Arizona, and I really do hear the stories from the borders and the farmers and all that. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are claiming that their public enemy number 1 is President Donald Trump. Does not have a legal right. This is amazing. Does not have a legal right as America's commander-in-chief to declare a national state of emergency. You tell me, oh God, it irritates me. Obama did this 12 times with foreign countries, not the United States of America, but foreign countries. Janet Napolitano, when she was the AG, I think, she declared a national emergency on the border. Napolitano. What is behind, and that's what you people got to start asking yourself, what is behind the reasoning and why they're fighting so hard to keep the wall away? Because the dang Democrats can't win unless they cheat. Now that Somalian up in Minnesota got elected. I guarantee you, if we check them voter rolls, she got elected illegally. Period. Tell me how many of those Somalians were actually citizens. I want Trump to make a national, what do they call it, deal to where you have to have an ID card, a voter ID card. Got to have an ID card for everything. And if I go to the bank and get a thing, and now they even started something in Louisiana. I mean, I'm 72 years old, and if I buy alcohol, I got to show my driver's license. If you buy cigarettes, you got to show your driver. I got gray hair. I've been around longer, twice, 3 times the age of most of them clerks. But to go vote? Oh, it's immoral to have to show an ID card. Oh. On Friday, after signing a bill to make certain there is no government shutdown, Trump told members of the White House press corps that he would order his law enforcement, military, and intelligence agencies and departments that they will be deployed to keep peace at the U.S. southwest border. They will also prevent gang members, terrorists, drug cartels, and other criminals from using the disorder at the border to circumvent security measures. Not only are the Democrats once again spouting the emotional outrage, but also the news media, Trump haters, who are also big on emotion but short on facts. In response to the large amounts of mendacity and disinformation being spewed by those more concerned with the politics than the lives and livelihoods of American citizens. Here's a list of 31 national emergencies that have been in effect for years, and a list of those presidents who declared the still ongoing national emergency, beginning with President Jimmy Carter. I saw a quote where Jimmy Carter was listed as one of the national emergencies. According to the federal, 58 national emergencies have been declared since the National Emergency Act of 1969. 76 was signed into law by President Gerald Ford. These are people that have created, and I'm just going to name names, not what it's for. Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 national emergencies that Clinton had. George Bush has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 31 active national emergencies right now, 8, 9, 10, 11, at least 11. Barack Obama, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He has 11. And you know what? All 11 were for foreign countries. And Trump, how many does Trump have? Oh, Let's see, Donald Trump, national emergency with respect to blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse. That was in 2017. September 12th, national with respect to imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in United States elections. November 27th, national emergency with respect to blocking property of certain persons contributing to the situation in Nicaragua. We didn't hear anything about that stuff. You see, this is not something new. Oh God, we're down to 5 minutes. And I also hear the statement that, well, why didn't they build the wall while we were in control? You know, there was a guy named Paul Ryan that did everything he could to fight Trump on that, even though it wasn't readily apparent. One of the things I want to tell you is tomorrow there is a lawsuit being presented in the courts in Baton Rouge. You're going to love this, T. Against the state and John White. And is it legal for him to be superintendent? I will be highly intrigued to see how this comes out. And our illustrious governor said he would get rid of him in his election, in his campaign. You see, people that don't support the border wall going up, they have no clue. Oh, this is the one I wanted to get to, and now it's too late. The Eagle Forum report. Behold the power of technology. I read this article. Smart cities equal enslaved citizens. Now, I want you Lafayette people, did you hear Plan Lafayette, smart cities, sustainability? Well, you know what? We got this big new technology coming out that's about to come called 5G. People who have modern smartphone normally think of 5G as nothing more than a progression from 3 and 4G. I'm not going to get to go through all this, but I will next week. Offering fewer drop calls, faster data transfer, and more convenience, 5G is the 5th generation of wireless technology. Thinking verily, there must be a greater reason why CEOs. The reason has little to do with your personal cell phone and everything to do with the so-called Internet of Things, where all electronic devices will be connected together in real time. The collective IoT is the core technology. Are you ready? Core technology used to implement smart city technology. Makeovers. It's not about faster phone service. I need, and I can't go through all this, but I want to. I'm telling you, Lafayette and our people here are working on making us a smart city. Y'all people need to get on top of it. We only got a minute and a half left, but I don't know what Plan Lafayette. It's a 200-page thing. I attended some of the first meetings and I lost friends because I stood up and told those people if I started hearing sustainability amongst other things, that it's all about Agenda 21, which is now Agenda 30. And if you people think they aren't trying to put us into a rack and stack, when you say mixed buildings, that's all part of the sustainable smart city stuff. Less control by your life. Listen, I appreciate all of y'all tuning in. There's just so much. Can't cover it all. But I want to cover this report from the Eagle Forum because it's real important. Y'all have a great week. God bless America and God bless all of you. Time to go.